Now on Meridian Tank driving at the War and Peace Show in Classic Cars.
Hello and welcome to Classic Cars. This week I'm at the Hop Farm Country Park in Kent, learning how to handle almost 20 tonnes of metal monster in preparation for the War and Peace Show. And there'll be plenty more classic motoring action for you today, so let's take a look at what's coming up in the next half hour. Today on Classic Cars we join the military spectacular that is the War and Peace Show. We say happy birthday to the Jeep as the world's most famous 4x4 turns 60. In Classic Owner we meet Roy and Liz Halsall from Salisbury, driving their 1941 Chevrolet Suburban.
I'm Simon Taylor. We're at Donington for the Vintage Sports Car Club meeting to witness the return of two famous pre-war champions.
Every year, this quiet field in Kent plays host to the biggest military vehicle spectacular in the world. The War and Peace Show boasts more military metalwork than the British Army took to the Gulf War. And with 80,000 visitors expected, this field won't be quiet for very long. For over 20 years, people have been coming to the Hop Farm Country Park in Kent for the annual War and Peace Show. And with the show escalating each year, we have promised an awesome display of everything military.
You should see everything from sort of a bicycle to a chieftain tank, and from just First World War, you get one or two pieces, very few and far between First World War. Obviously a lot of Second World War, and now with the armies downsizing in Europe, a lot of post-war with the British and American kit. Well, where Europe's concerned, we reckon that every country in Europe bar Liechtenstein has been represented. And I keep mentioning this because I'm actually waiting for the collector from Liechtenstein to appear and say, I have arrived.
When you spend each summer surrounded by armoured vehicles, it's bound to rub off on you sooner or later. And this was the case for Fiona Pollard, who ended up buying her own tank. Fiona, please explain to me, it's not really sort of an everyday thing that you do. What on earth possessed you to buy a tank?
Well, I suppose I bought the Hop Farm back in 1997 and I watched the War and Peace Show for a couple of years. And lots of people seem to be having a lot of fun driving these things. And I'd owned classic cars in the past, so I thought this was the ultimate sort of classic vehicle to have. So I decided at the end of last year to buy myself this Abbott self-propelled gun.
Does it take a lot of tuition to learn how to handle this thing, or is it quite easy to get to grips with?
It's not too difficult actually. I've been having driving lessons, so I'm now comfortable with, just doing the normal things. But we're going on to stunts next, so I'm going to enjoy crashing cars and the like. And I think that'll probably take a bit more information to get me going on that.
So are we going to see you having a bit of instruction today then?
I thought maybe you'd like to. I mean, I've done this before, so you could have a go.
I would love to have a go.
You can drive an automatic car, can you?
Yeah.
You should be okay with this then.
I can, yeah.
Okay. This is basically the same, except you've got no steering wheel, you've got two sticks. Pull the left one to go left and pull the right one to go right, and pull them both to stop, and you use your automatic gearbox on the left.
Under the watchful supervision of instructor Paul Shio, I was soon let loose on the Abbott.
So you just stick it in drive and away we go.
Okay.
Away you go.
Okay. Yes, I'll put it on it now. Oh.
That's it, don't forget to keep accelerating.
Yeah.
Effectively,
Yeah.
you're fighting against the brakes.
I see. Surprisingly enough, driving the Abbott was really easy, but I think it's time to leave it to the professionals. Amongst the tanks on display is this Churchill. Found literally on the scrap heap, it was brought back to life by its owner, David Russell.
I started looking in 1979 with a friend, and he put me off the idea when we first looked at it, but this thing would keep surfacing for about 7 years. In the end, it was driving me mad, so I thought, well, I've got to get one. So I got one, and then it took another 10 years to get it from the scrapyard condition to as you see it now.
But it's not all tanks. Here at the War and Peace Show, you suddenly find yourself transported back in time to Vietnam in the living history section of the show. Every detail is conveyed in this makeshift tank. And from Vietnam, we move to northern France to the time of the Normandy landings with the Kent Reenactment Society.
Well, we're called the Second Battle Group, and we're a living history and historical group portraying the Waffen-SS as we are today in France in 1944. This is really it for vehicles, you know, this is a major sort of vehicle event and reenactment event of the year, of the calendar. And we all look forward to coming full effort to get here.
And you don't have to be part of a club or society to display at the show. This display from the Gulf War has been put together by a group of like-minded friends.
It came about that we were all like enthusiasts. We were English heritage members and we used to visit castles, and we got into military shows, and I sort of bumped into this one sort of about 6 years ago and told all the friends about it. We came along, and then a friend bought a vehicle, and then we all joined in with him, and then I bought a vehicle, and it just sort of spiralled into that. Someone would buy a bit more equipment and a bit more, and it's just grown into this display now.
Yeah, it's a wonderful bunch of people. Europeans come over here, Americans, and some of the people who did serve in the army love to see these old vehicles still running today. So overall it's great fun, really good fun to be here.
One of wartime's most powerful icons is the Jeep. More of this later in the programme. But here at the show it really is a case of like father, like son, as Jeep owner Simon Smith has built his son a scaled-down version of his 1944 Ford GBW.
Yeah, that's the 1/8 scale of my full-size Jeep for my son Andrew. It took me about 3 years. Homemade in the garage with an engine from a lawnmower, wheelbarrow wheels, and made from MDF board.
And for 10-year-old Andrew, the huge fields here at the show enable him to make full use of the miniature vehicle.
I thought it's good that I could go around because I can't go around at home. So I like taking Jeep out at rallies.
And when the 5-day fiesta comes to a close, the whole process of organising next year's show just keeps going.
Well, usually what we do is we get to the end of this show, which is the 22nd of July, and then I'll go into hiding for about 10 or 14 days, and then when I pop my head above the surface again, the rest are all ready to go for the next show. It never really stops. There isn't a stop period.
This year marks an important wartime anniversary. It's 60 years since the Jeep went to war. And here at the War and Peace Show in Kent, over 300 of them have gathered, the biggest assembly of Jeeps in one place in Britain since 1945. The Jeep was born from a design by Carl Probst for the American Bantam Company. During World War II, the US Army made an order for the lightweight four-wheel drive, and subsequently 650,000 Jeeps saw service. They could handle every terrain. The Jeep became a worldwide motoring icon, building on its wartime reputation of being able to go anywhere and do anything, even turning into a makeshift ambulance. Expected to last just 60 hours in battle, thousands of Jeeps survived and are privately owned today.
The history is very difficult to find on any Jeep. You know, it's more or less hearsay. And this one, as I say, is hearsay, was supposed to have been captured by the Germans. They used it because they loved Willys Jeeps. Then it was liberated again by the English. It's a very pleasant vehicle to drive. This, being an early 42s, it's only got 9 leaves to the springs, where they wanted to carry more bulky things and do things with them, and they added another 2, making it 11 springs, and they don't drive as well. I mean, I have various Land Rovers, but I mean, out of them, for fun, I prefer to drive these.
The wartime demand for the Jeep was much higher than originally estimated, and the US Army had to spread their orders further afield.
Bantam, who first produced it, designed it and first produced it, didn't have the production facilities to produce it in the numbers that the American armed forces wanted. So production was handed to Willis and Ford. About 50-50, they each produced about 300,000 of them. I caught the bug here 3 years ago at Beltring, and I sort of slept on it for a year, and shortly after the next Beltring I bought this. It goes very well. It has a top speed, in theory, of about 65 miles an hour, but I think you'd have to chase it with a Tiger tank to achieve that. We use it about town when the weather's reasonable. We go shopping in it. I take the kids to school in it. I do about half a dozen shows a year of various sorts, car shows, military shows. We've done a fair bit of work recently for the Royal British Legion, helping them with some of their parades.
After the war, the British authorities decided to commission a homegrown vehicle, but the Rolls-Royce engine Champ ended up far more complex than the Jeep and more expensive.
The order from the government was 17,000. They only completed that one order and then never ordered any more. They were so expensive to make. They could order 3 Series 1 Land Rovers for the price of one of these Champs. But the Champ is superbly made, and the expense was tough. Britain never ever liked spending the money, did they? But they're great little vehicles, and we find that they're very reliable on today's standards. This particular one behind us was sold in the early 60s at an army sale. 5 of them, including this one, went for £120. My wife remembered that 30 years ago her greengrocer had one. So 30 years on, she managed to contact her old greengrocer, now retired, who said, yes, I've still got it. If your husband wants it, come and take it away. So that was a freebie, which was great. You've got to be lucky in life sometimes. He then said, well, there's a matching trailer for it as well, and it's round the corner. And we thought that trailer will never be there, but when we went round there, it was still laying there. And everyone said, we're glad to get rid of it because it's in the way when we get the car out the drive. So we hitched it on, put a couple of batteries on the Champ, and she started first time. The Rolls-Royce engines are superb, there's no doubt about that.
In the 50s, the original Jeep evolved. This lightweight gun model has come here today from Belgium.
That's a totally new design. They went from the Willys to the M38, which was roughly the same, and they wanted something new. So when about the end of the 50s, they started thinking about a new concept, and they came up with this, which is a light Jeep. Body and chassis are the same, are together, and it's independent suspension on the Jeep. It was revolutionary for that moment. This version is rare. The normal passenger version, the gun Jeep with the gun on the M60 on top, you can find very reasonably good, but this whole kit is difficult to find.
"60 years old, and this is still a great little car to drive. I wonder if we'll be saying that about today's 4x4s in 2061.
Coming up after the break on Classic Cars, we meet Roy and Liz Halsall from Salisbury driving their 1941 Chevrolet Suburban. And motor racing expert Simon Taylor is witnessing the historic return of the auto unions to the Donington circuit. Welcome back to Classic Cars. Each week we turn the cameras onto you, the viewer. So let's meet today's classic owner.
My car is a 1941 Chevrolet Suburban. Suburban is basically an estate car, I suppose. One's led to believe by the media that people carriers are a new invention, but as you can see, this is a 41 vehicle, 30s body style, 8-seater people carrier. Original configuration would have been as a van, and they obviously had a desire for vehicles with seats. So the rarity of this is in fact the body, the fact that it's got window pressings, wind-up windows all round, and the 3 rows of seats.
The unique part, I think, is it's a military vehicle with chrome, and it's shiny, which you just don't see military vehicles like that. It also has a heater, which military vehicles don't have.
As far as the restorations are concerned, whilst it was basically complete, it had been dreadfully abused in its past years. Mechanical spares I've managed to get very easily from the States, but bodywork I've had to remake or repair everything. The running boards are totally replaced, bottoms of the doors, the wings, massive great areas of the bodywork have all had parts let in, which is my trade.
We picked it up in the October of '89 and it was on the road in 10 months.
Bearing in mind it's a 30s design and it's only very, very basic cart spring suspension and it's very tall, it rides very, very smoothly. It's not at all uncomfortable really. I made the mistake when I first restored it of keeping it totally original and putting it on crossbar tyres, and I would say that we're lucky to be here. I very quickly after that got some radial tyres that look the part, and it's a different vehicle altogether, and now it is user-friendly now. It's the only one that we're aware of, definitely in the UK. I have a friend up in Norfolk who's got the pickup version, because they were much, much more common. The body shape of this is the rarity. But I mean, they didn't make them in the thousands, we're talking quality of hundreds. And at the end of the day, it was a civilian vehicle, and that's the majority of them have gone by the way. I don't envisage parting with it. It's so practical. We can do classic car runs, classic commercial runs, military vehicle events.
We'll keep the Chevy. Something dire will have to happen to get rid of it, but we will keep it for as long as we can.
Audi mark originated out of the amalgamation of 4 different German manufacturers, hence its 4-ringed emblem. This 1932 union of Audi, DKW, Hawk and Wanderer resulted in the name Auto Union. With backing from Hitler's government and under the design leadership of Dr. Ferdinand Porsche, their rear-engine Grand Prix cars found much success in the hands of drivers like Bernd Rosemeyer and Tazio Nuvolari. This year's Vintage Sports Car Club meeting here at Donington is a very special occasion. In 1937 and 1938, the revolutionary rear-engined Grand Prix cars from Germany, made by Auto Union, came here to win the British Grand Prix. 63 years after winning the Grand Prix here, the German team returns to the Leicestershire circuit to give a younger generation the opportunity to see these extraordinary cars in action. For the organising club, getting the cars from Audi's museum to this event has taken a lot of planning.
The spiritual home of Auto Union has to be Donington Park in England. And here we are, running a meeting dedicated to Richard Seaman, and we haven't had an Auto Union here since 1938. And so last year, things looked a little bit warmer, wasn't very much longer after that we had an email saying, yes, it's fixed, we're definitely going to come to Donington.
The International Grand Prix of 1937 and 38 attracted huge crowds who were staggered by the speed of the two German teams, Auto Union and Mercedes-Benz. They were light years ahead of the French, British and Italian entries in terms of design and performance. But although they're the stars of the show, the weekend isn't totally reserved for the mighty Auto Unions. Many other classic enthusiasts are taking to the circuit, including the father and son owners of this superb 4.5-litre Lagonda.
Martin Bugler, this magnificent Lagonda is, I think, very much part of your family and your father's family.
Absolutely. My father's had it for just over 30 years now, and after he rebuilt it, we put it into this sort of form, and it's been raced for, well, a good 23 years now.
I wonder where the fascination really is, because you could buy a much more modern car for probably less money, go faster with rather less effort.
Well, I guess so, but this car is so much fun to drive, and it's also nice to actually drive up to a meeting, strip it down, go onto the track, put it back together afterwards and drive home. It's just fun.
Racing a priceless classic car is expensive, so it helps if you've got a spare million or two to invest in your hobby. And that's exactly what rock musician Nick Mason has been able to do. Nick, what's the connection between rock music and playing with old motor cars?
I'm not sure, Simon, but I think it's probably money. I think I may have said that to you before, but certainly at the level that I now do it, it's a relatively expensive operation. I think that's, frankly, the main one. I think, actually, if you look at the people who race old cars, it's a wonderful variety of people. There are other musicians, but there's virtually all walks of life doing it.
And as the meeting comes to a close and the cars return to the paddock, let's hope it won't be another 63 years before the Auto Unions return again to Donington.
Join us next week on Classic Cars when we're in Kent at the famous Indy circuit Brands Hatch for the CSMA Classic Festival. And Simon Taylor starts his journey to Le Mans in the historic cavalcade. See you next week on Classic Cars.